This podcast is part of the Democracy Group.
Joe Oddo, welcome back.
Hello, Ahmed.
How are you?
Outstanding.
Okay, this is an important moment because we're going from idea and writing and thinking and talking to action. And in this case, action in the form of you running for an actual bona fide seat in the US Congress.
Exactly. And it's about time we elect somebody outside of the two legacy parties.
Yeah. So you're running in South Carolina, the 6th district, right? Well, let's first of all tell the audience a little bit about you. You know, this is not the first rodeo. Um, where do you stand in the spectrum in terms of the issues, but also crucially, why are you running under TRM? What attracted you to the idea? You're part of you're part of this from the get-go, and so it's only natural that the one guy amongst us in the TRM world who has actually a run for office would step forward. But tell the audience a little bit about you, those who don't know who you are.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to meet Mike Gravel, former senator from Alaska, who came up with a plan to create a people's division of government, like the fourth branch of government, the people. What a novel concept, but it's not new. He wrote that book, Citizen Power, right up above me here, back in 1972. So I got to know him. He ran a couple times since then as a Democrat, tried to get the nomination, but he said he only ran Democrat because he had to be in the primaries. He really wanted to be independent, to promote the idea that the people have a chance to exercise their power. Then you came along, and this is an outstanding idea with the true representative movement. The people form a swarm, they vote on every issue with AI's help. Now, of course, the technology is helping us, right? So we can
Yeah.
read the bills that are presented to us. We can understand them now with AI's help and vote accordingly. And the idea of the member serving the people, it's such a novel concept. Wow, that's what the founders originally intended, right?
Back
They
to the
they weren't
fund.
intended to be down there just to waiting for the lobbyists to show up with a bill in hand and
Yeah.
make sure they're on the list. Oh yeah, you gave us money. You're our friendly lobbyist. Thank you. So we'll pass your bill for you. No, that's not how it's supposed to work. The
Yeah.
people can overwhelm that, and the only way they can overwhelm it is with numbers, right? We're not going to come up with the money that the R's or the D's have. They're the biggest fundraising operations in the world, right? So we have to challenge it with the people, and that's why we press the flesh, get back out in the streets, get on the ballot, because unless you're on the ballot, you're not heard. And so I've run for office numerous times because then the media pays attention. What's your issue? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And that's what I encourage others who are watching to please consider just standing on the ballot for office because you have a voice. And the only way to really exercise it anymore is to get on the ballot and be heard.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, and so let's talk about the district itself. It's South Carolina 6th, right? It's dominated by one congressperson who's been there forever, right?
34 years, Jim
34 years.
Clyburn. Now, I give him credit for one thing he did recently. Write a book. He wrote a book called The First Eight. It was about the first 8 black congressmen from South Carolina because back right after the Civil War, there was Reconstruction, which only allowed the it didn't allow the Confederates to vote or to run for office. So, but Reconstruction also had federal troops here to protect people who wanted to participate. and there was a black majority here in South Carolina. So they elected a number of people of color to the state legislature and then to Congress. 8 of them eventually came and went, and I tell you what, they were some brave souls, man, because white mobs would come and tear down their stage and run them out of town and threaten, and some of them lost their lives.
Yeah.
Not the actual 8 elected, but others who were like state legislators, people of color were getting just terrorized, right? And so when they ended Reconstruction in 1876 with that so-called compromise to allow Hayes to be president, then it pretty much went away. All the electing power went away. They dissipated the blacks having the vote. That didn't come back for another 90 years, right, until civil rights in the 60s. So 1960s. So it's a very interesting district. A lot of history here in South Carolina. A lot of history that people don't know. Even the locals here don't know their own history, So this is one of the reasons why I just can't stand idly by. I have to be out there helping educate the world, the public, at least local, to say, hey, this place has rich history. Let's make more history. Let's get an independent elected, one of 6 to 8, to change the fate in Congress. Now, suddenly, if you have a number of independents who are serving as a fulcrum, they're sitting there saying, well, you don't have a majority R or majority D. Now you have to listen to us, come to the table. Let's work out a compromise on these legislative proposals. Let's work out a bill every year that finances the government.
Yeah.
Let's not put this off, put it off, and then shut the government down and have these battles ongoing 2 or 3 times a year. That's just a pathetic way to run government, and hopefully it's with the people's help. We'll make a change.
Yeah. And so given that Clyburn is probably is there going to be a primary at all? First of all, you think?
Well, I don't think so at this late date. Somebody would have come forward. I don't see anybody coming forward. I don't even see an oil party person coming forward to challenge him. But 34 years, man. I was on the ballot against him last term, and he never even showed up for a forum. We had 4 people on the ballot against him. We had 4 seats and an empty seat for him. He didn't bother to show up. Those people, once they get to that pinnacle of power, I'm untouchable. Don't mess with me. So,
which is very, it's very unhealthy in that it makes it sound as if the people are just an afterthought in a democracy, right?
Exactly, because like I said, it's the lobbyists who show up with a bill in hand. Hey, we gave you money. Here's a bill. Get this passed for us, please. And that's who they listen to. They don't invite the people. We the citizens can all be citizen legislators, or let's say citizen lobbyists. If we don't pay, then we don't have to register as lobbyists, but we can still show up and lobby. And it happens here in South Carolina in the actual lobby of the Capitol here more than it does elsewhere. So that's another little thing I'd like people to understand. You can lobby as a citizen right here. Now, you got to go through many other steps and get through staff members to get to your member in D.C. But here, right in the lobby, it's a roped off area. You can pull your member out and lobby them right there at the rope in the lobby of the Capitol. So a very different dynamic here in South Carolina. And I wish more citizens would just flip the switch, learn a little bit about civics, and get involved.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that's really disappointing about somebody like Clyburn, who clearly has a sense of morality and mission and so on and so forth, that he is teaching the people the wrong lesson about democracy, right? As opposed to he shows up to debates, as opposed to he says, I'm your servant, knowing that he will win, which will make him even look better. I mean, he looked magnanimous, right? I'm gonna win.
I
but
mean,
look,
it's a hypocrisy when he writes a book that shows how
right.
important those first 8 black congressmen were, and then he became the 9th.
And he doesn't show
Right?
up.
That was important. It's okay to highlight that, but why didn't you move on after 12 years? I mean, come on. That's the
And that's fine.
legitimate thing to do, you know?
Yeah, he can move on, but at the very least, he should show up to debates. He
Yeah,
should
exactly.
he should
You're still
provide
representing the people,
he
right?
should provide the example. He should humble himself. He should say, "I hear
Right.
you." He should provide. He should basically take his position of leadership. Of he's an icon, right? Of an icon to teach the people that I'm going to pass on at some point. I want the next generation to be infused with a sense of participation. I want you to be part of the system. I don't want you to be just relying on the next big figure, right? So probably he's grooming somebody who's going to replace him, who's going to be the new Clyburn. And so this thinking about leader, our great leader who's going to take care of us, right, is something that we need to sort of get away from as soon as possible, because that is the core of what ails this democracy, is when you sideline the people in the name of some very virtuous person who's going to take care of everybody, right? That's what we did with that's what happened with what's his name,
Yeah, and he
with
gets to
Biden.
this safe place where
With Biden, yeah.
he's there for an indefinite period of time, which means when Biden was president, he would say things like, "Well, I support whatever the president says." Excuse me, but if the actions of a state actor like Israel was wrong by performing a genocide, you don't just support the president because he supports them. You speak out against it, man. Come on. I mean, here's a guy
Or or
that
you don't need to,
challenged
yeah,
the KKK, was chasing these 8 black congressmen out of business.
yeah.
He challenges them in the book. Very good book. But that hypocrisy to turn around and say, "Oh, I'm gonna support everything that Biden does." That's just blows my mind that they do
If the
that.
people, the thing is, if the people support what the president wants to do, then that's his role. Support him. But he didn't turn and around and say, "Hey, people, what do you think I should? What is your
Exactly.
opinion, right? What do you think?
Right.
Where do you think I should stand?" As opposed to, "I belong. I'm going to be loyal." So these things about loyalty, belonging to a group, bowing to the leader. So he's the leader. People need to bow to him. But Biden is his leader, so he buys. So this hierarchy thing is I think what we need to break away from. And so therefore, I think an opportunity for someone who's running against him like you is to call him out. Say, well, why aren't you showing up to these debates?
Exactly.
Don't you believe in democracy? Why you and then that same message, one message again and again doesn't mean that I think you're gonna lose the election, but at least it starts to, which is part of our collective mission here in TRM, to get the people to think about, well, wait a minute, I should be participating. Why isn't he listening to me? He's not my daddy. He's not my papa, right? Who's gonna take care of me?
Right.
He is
And we
supposed
did
to.
record those that forum, and I have those video clips still on my website, bettercandidates.org, from the last 2 years ago. And we did bring up those very points. I looked over at the empty chair and said, "It's too bad you're not here, Mr. Clyburn, because you should be
Well,
defending
well, let's
your
do.
positions." Every 2 years, all he does is, "Oh, I got another 300 million to build a bridge."
Right. So I think what we should do is like what we did, what I did with the guy in Virginia. We should
Yeah, yeah, you
create
had
a
to.
Clyburn bot. Let's do it again, right? Let's do it
Yeah,
again. We
exactly. Have
this
a
guy
bot.
has been around for a long, long time. So he has a long record of him saying things and statements. We feed that into, I don't know what do you want to call it, Jim Clyburn bot, right? Whatever you want to call it, right? And if you guys, once you have your debate, we'll have the bot there. We'll do a
Yeah,
session,
he can
right?
answer the questions.
And he will answer the question. And now that since 2 years ago, the technology has gotten to a point where we can clone his voice, right? We say,
Oh,
well,
that's great, man.
it will sound like him. We will make a
Yep.
disclaimer. This is not him talking. But I think it will attract attention, I think, for sure, and so on and so forth. But I think sort of the running theme, perhaps, right? And this is just a suggestion in your campaign is, democracy and participation. Why is this guy not showing up? And it should not be a side comment in the debate. It should be, let me first point out that the representative here thinks that he is above you. He doesn't even bother to come. And you know what happened? We did that because in the 2024 election in the seventh, forgetting what the district was. What we did is we had somebody like this who was an incumbent by Don Bayer. Um, and he just decided, that he was not going to show up to debates. Okay. And so what we did, we did the bot. We had a debate between the candidates minus him being the bot, and it got a lot of traction and so forth. What happened is that he was declining invitations from folks to show up, like even the NAACP. He was saying, no, basically he said, I'm just gonna chill, right, and ride this thing through. And after the debate that we did, he started showing up. I think we shamed him a little bit, right? So it just
Exactly.
you make noise, get some traction, and all of a sudden the guy is like, "Are you really for democracy, or are you just, you know, a patriarch? A patriarch? You're like the head of a tribe. No, you're not the head of a tribe.
Protecting your turf.
Protecting your turf, and and making it sound like you, by getting some money here and there, you're gonna buy off the people, and so that's not healthy, and that's why we are here, in my opinion. We are here exactly because of that kind of a thing. Anyway, so I think that could be like a really well-defined talking point. Where is our representative? Is he our representative, or is he
Exactly.
our king, or he's a
Right.
prince? He's a prince. There's a king and there's a prince, and he's a prince. Anyway, so let's see here. I think I would like to spend some time on two things. One, the fact, maybe three things. Number one, the fact that I think the largest voting bloc in the United States are independents, at least they self-declare as independent, right? So people self-declare as a Democrat or as Republican or as independent. So that's number one. Number two, the fact that um, there are lots and lots of polls that show that the American people are not so divided on the important issues. Like there are majorities on many, many important issues. This notion that the American people are really divided about healthcare, are really divided about Medicare, are really divided about what term limits. It's untrue, right? And I always refer to the YouGov survey or paper that was written in 2024 that makes that point. Um, and then, so that's one, two, and what's the third one? The third one is the fact that Congress, at least for the last three Congresses have been very, very close in terms of divide, right? With those three, I think we can formulate a strategy. I think you call the Fulcrum strategy, right? Right.
Well, let me take the first one, the voting bloc. These people who claim they're independent are really just swing voters most of the time. What they need to do is really go on a national strike that says we're not going to waste our vote on R or D anymore. So instead of being a swing voter, which means you run back and forth between R and D, just don't be an R or D anymore. Just completely grab hold of your independence and vote that way with your conscience. Vote for something, not against the most wicked evil, right? That's exactly what the big legacy party is going to come at us for again. They're going to say, "Oh, but this time you have to." They've been saying that for ad infinitum since Shirley Chisholm ran 50 years ago. I mean, they're, "Oh no, we can't, nominate some woman of color. That would be crazy." And the second thing is the polls. You're right. The polls are line up a lot of issues that show that people are for term limits, are for better election. I mean, the elections were safe. Creating this phantom fear that they weren't is all just make believe,
Of
and
course, of course.
most people realize that. Also, I mean, if provide incentives for police departments and any law enforcement agency to have cameras. I
Hmm.
mean, to
Yeah.
have this rogue entity running around with masks and no cameras,
I mean,
that's
that was a bad mistake.
complete
I think that
BS.
this has freaked
So
out.
people will understand that. That people
Yeah.
agree with that stuff. They don't want their Fourth Amendment rights challenge, where people can come knock on your door and crash into your house anytime, no more than they want their Second Amendment taken away. So how are we going to put more emphasis on one amendment over another? It's not the way it works, right?
Yeah.
So you're right. The polls, people are close. They're not as divided as they want us to believe. And the third thing is Congress, you're right. No majority big enough that if 6 to 8 of us independents get elected, we will have a fulcrum strategy, a bill that will force those two to come to the table and draw up compromise legislation like it was supposed to be done.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing, and I think what could be done as a strategy, right? In order to get someone to your point, your first point, right? People declare themselves independent, but at the last minute when they're voting, they don't vote for the independent. They're afraid. They're afraid of the greater of the two evils, right? So I think what could be strategic is for 6 or 8 candidates to actually coordinate nationally, right? Say, here, if we get elected, by the way, right? Here's what happens. Here's what happens.
Right.
So that people are not thinking, so what happens, they have an actual concrete alternative, not just a hazy thing. 6 people, this is what they would do. They would basically force the two sides to negotiate, as
Right.
opposed to
Exactly.
simply block, right?
Right.
You want that, you want the government not to shut down. Okay, that's easy, right? Here's what you do: you put this bill and that bill on the floor. If nothing, let's just get people on the record, or give us this or give us that, and then at that point in time, right? There's an actual meaning. If we show people that it's not just an aspiration, but actually power, that this block of 6 folks have actual power, then
Yeah.
people are attracted to power when they see that actually this makes sense, right? Now the unfortunate thing is the following. Right now, uh, where we are right now with the war that just started, right? With ICE and so forth, people are their number one mission, I think in general, independents and Democrats and even some Republicans, is to get this monster out, right? And so when they look at the ballot and they see Democrat, Republican, and Independent, I think now more than ever before, probably they're gonna click on the Democrat, right? But but I think what we should remember, like we were talking before, is do we want to do the thing that we did in 2020, which is we got rid of the guy, and then, like I was saying, we all went to brunch. We all said, thank God, let's go and have a what a relief. And then what
We left
happened?
them alone after January 6th. That's
Yeah, we left
pathetic,
him
isn't it?
alone,
If we
and
let him get
then
away with it.
we let them get away with it. And then in the name of what? In the name of, I mean, why did Garland not immediately go after him and so forth? It's because, well, they didn't want to. They did exactly what Obama did with Bush. He said, "Oh, I want to look forward to the future. I don't want to go back to the past. I don't want to create political
Well, that
whatever."
party is very gifted at using their legal delays. You know that they are very strategic
Which
in
party is that?
dragging stuff out. I mean, even when the so-called files were found in Mar-a-Lago that were classified, and nothing happened. I mean,
Well, they
come
started
on, that should have been an immediate
two
slap
things,
on,
right? Yeah, two things. They started like 2 years later than they should have. They
yeah,
didn't they didn't pick up on the momentum. They didn't say
exactly.
immediately, right? Two
So
years
what that proves is our legacy parties cannot be counted on.
cannot exactly. And so therefore, I think even though everybody's going to look at Democrats as what's going to save us from, the abyss, I think we all need to be articulating the lesson learned, which is, okay, well, you want to do that again, right? So, I guarantee you that Trump is not unique, meaning now he has taught a lot of people what is possible, right? It is possible to do many, many things by just sticking to yourself, to your guns. Just stick to your guns. Just never say I'm sorry. Just never say take it back. Just stick to your
And
gun.
if one good thing comes out of that individual and the way they conduct their business, the one good thing is that they've put everything on the table to show that there's nothing sacred. We
Yes,
can challenge everything. They
true.
challenge pretty much every establishment thing that they don't like. They want to still be the establishment, but they want it to be their side, you know.
That's a
But
good
that
point.
tells us in the big picture that we should challenge
That's a great.
every aspect of the establishment,
That's a great point.
including
Yeah,
the way that the elections are rigged for either R or D, and the
yeah.
participation that they narrow for third parties, independents, people that want to get involved, the high bars that they put for us to even get on the ballot. Those things are what we should be addressing. Once the one party gets the D party may get in charge, but they won't do anything to help ease the restrictions for us to participate. So we can't count on them for that. We already know
No,
we can't because
of
they've
course
had
not.
their power, they had their chance. They didn't do it then. They won't do it now. So we have no allegiance. Us independents have no allegiance or faith in them coming to our aid. It's us against the other two. So it's really
Yeah,
we are the third block. We need to coordinate our efforts. If there was some way, which I think there are some movements heading that way. The United Independents, for instance, they have hold a convention every year. They're raising money. They're backing good, solid candidates to run outside of the big two. So there are movements afoot, and we are trying to get better coordination between the G's and the L's, the people that say, look, there are overlapping positions. We shouldn't be taking shots just because one may be a green and one's a libertarian. There's a lot of overlap there. Let's
yeah,
work on those positives and promote those. Let's not worry about what we differ on. One wants
yeah.
bigger government, one wants smaller. Okay, that's not that hard to figure out. Actually, smaller is better. If I was a green, I'd still want smaller government, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I
Well, I
mean,
mean, the thing is, the one thing that they all, I would say, have in common is um less more involvement of the people, right? More democracy, right?
yeah,
So that's sort of
right,
like non-ideological. Okay, you have issues and all that, but do we all agree that the people should be more involved? I think the Greens would be, the Libertarians would be. Like we don't want like some daddy to take care of us. We want, and
right,
so I think that's I mean that's sort of the thing that should pull these folks together, and it doesn't touch on anybody's ideology. It's not like how you have to compromise on what you believe. Do you believe in democracy? Yes. Okay, well, you're part of the group then, right? Do you believe in
right.
anti-establishment? Yes, they are all anti-establishment, right? Do you believe in anti-lobbyists? Yes. So much in common, right? That the platform can be easily articulated. That is all about, democracy, engagement, enabling the people to. So I think the fact that I think the fact that the Democrats are hopefully going to, win Congress, maybe even the Senate, and probably local assemblies and all that, this time around, gives us room to talk about what should happen beyond the tactical level. Like, what is the big mission ahead? The big mission ahead, in a nutshell, is more involvement of the people. That's the big mission. Going towards not giving the power, the power to the few, right? The few, one president who does whatever he wants, right? Or one congressperson who decides what to do for their district. Um, and so anyway, so I think the opportunity is here, and I think it's a real opportunity right now. And I don't see how we can survive, to be honest with you, if we continue like this. I mean, literally right now, it's getting to a point where these are existential moments, right? And this guy could drag us into an actual world war. And I think it's almost a world war right now, what we have. I mean,
Well, it's pretty embarrassing too that it's the 250th year of the revolution
yeah,
and the Declaration. But what people don't realize is the country didn't form then.
yeah,
It still took a few years for the
right.
country to form, to create a constitution, right? So the independence, the Declaration was quite a move. That was an important year, 1776. So 250 years, yes, we should celebrate that. But it's what people don't realize that at the very beginning of that year, there was still a lot of people that thought they could reconcile
Yeah,
with Great Britain,
yeah,
right? But by the middle of the year, by July, when they finally drew up the independence, they got a unanimous agreement to push that forward. So that shows you that within a span of 7 months, a lot of change happened.
yeah,
The momentum was there. The momentum can happen now too in a very similar way. We can get people to realize that, just because there is an R and a D and that you're leaning towards a D right now, that doesn't mean that that's the answer. because we have already shown and they have proved for 50 plus years since Mike wrote that book right there, Citizen Power, over 50 years ago, we can't count on them. So we have to make a change that leans us towards a third option, right? If, look, we watch how many television stations? 250, 300 television stations. Yeah, we got choice there, right? But we really are narrow on the choice of who brings us those televisions. So
Yeah.
Comcast or the other guy,
It's the same message.
come on. So
Yeah.
what you got is a monopoly on who
Oh.
controls that. But you still have choices. So why would we not have choices beyond the R and the D? I mean, come on, we're not living in the 60s where we only had 3 black and white television stations, you
True.
know?
Yeah, exactly. And we got into a point where communication is a lot easier than it used to be, right? So you're able to reach a lot of folks. And people have. I mean, I watch podcast. I don't watch television anymore in the sense like CNN. I just don't, right? So there are podcasts
Oh,
where
I
people.
can't look at any of that. I
Yeah,
mean,
these are like.
even people ask me, "Did you watch State of the Union?" I mean, heck no, I'm not going to waste brain space on that old
No,
clown.
there's no way. I mean, I couldn't tolerate it for more than 30 seconds, right? Because it's
Right,
clearly just
exactly.
insulting your intelligence from the get-go, right?
Right.
But to your point, right? There's a lot of really smart programming out there. People who have podcasts that are informed, that really want to get to the bottom of things. Of course, there's a lot of junk, right? Of course, right? But there's stuff. To your point, there are alternatives, right? The question is, because there are so many alternatives, how do we get ideas to break through, right? So let's talk about your campaign then. Um, just assume that somebody doesn't know what TRM is and what you're running for. And how would you like, as your pitch, what would you say? Okay, why are you running, and what is this thing called TRM?
Well, the first thing we want people to do is realize that they can be part of the swarm. They can be part of the decision-making process. Like we are asking regular folks to say, take 10 minutes out of your week and help us enact legislation. Because look, civics is basically the participation of the people with their government. That's what civics is. It's not some Honda Civic. It's not some faraway entity that decides things for you. And that's what I try to explain when I go and teach civics locally to the high school level folks. It's like, you know, civics is not just some faraway entity. They are in your pocket before you even get home with your paycheck. They've extracted taxes. They tax your gas, your
Yeah,
phones, your clothes, your food. So, these decisions are made on the local level. You have to pay attention, whether you want to or not. You can't just leave it to some unknown entity that is really driven by money. So don't leave it to that, and don't leave it to the old legacy media either. That's going away. We know, I mean, there's reasons, not just beyond why Colbert or the other guy were challenged to be shut down off the air. I mean, those models are coming eventually. That whole model of old school television is going to go away.
yeah.
Independent media is where it's at,
Mhm.
and the individual also, not only should they rely more on independent media and use multiple sources to make better decisions rather than to listen to the old lamestream propaganda driven tomes that are out there now. I mean, you figure why is a company like the Washington Post closing down their investigative journalism? Because they're owned by a gazillionaire, right?
Yeah,
That has no interest in undermining their own power structure that
of
the
course. Yeah.
oligarchs have built. So all that is the people versus the oligarch. That's basically how we have to frame it now. The people have to realize that it's not an R versus D. That's just one uniparty that's creating a simulated division, right? The division is between the haves and the have-nots, and the gap is getting wider and wider by the minute.